Hi, I'm Hannah,
I'm Neil.
And I'm Adam.
and this is ULARP doing New to LARP. We had a couple of comments on our first video asking if you're going to do any videos for new LARPers or showing how to get into it, so we thought we'd do a little bit of introduction to the hobby.
What is LARP? LARP, it spans quite a wide range. I mean, it can be anything from like a murder mystery dinner party right up to a big festival system with several thousand participants. But you know, there's quite a few different kinds. But we tend to focus mostly on, say, a fantasy style LARPs, which are some of the most popular in the UK.
The
Yeah.
chances are that you've actually done some LARP and haven't realised.
Yeah.
So
It's any time that you've played out a scene to show somebody what went on, or you were at a tabletop group and your GMs asked you, oh, can you just play that out, how it would go between your characters? That's LARP. It's just a very, very small part of it.
there'll probably be some reenactors out there who aren't happy us saying that they're LARPing.
But if you're playing a role, that's what LARP is. Live action role playing. So anything you do live where you're playing a role where you're not yourself, it's LARP.
So it does cover quite a lot. Some groups have cut the A out.
Yeah, it doesn't mean any difference that they sometimes think they're
Well,
better.
LRP was what it was called in the distant past. It's at some point somebody decided to put an A in it because action. It's always better, right?
Yeah, it's probably the Americans.
It's easy to blame the Americans.
It's always easy to blame Americans for everything.
Very true.
Sorry to our American viewers. I know you're all really nice guys.
It's okay, I forgive you. So, why did we get into LARP?
For me, I got into LARP in, it may be unthinkable for some of you watching, but there was a time before the internet. Back in 1987, I was reading a magazine that actually came on paper called Computer and Video Games, and they did like a two-page spread on a LARP called Labyrinth, and it's like, having been a pen and paper role player, I looked at this and I went, no, I didn't go ping. I went, wow, this is so cool. Oh, it's like, you know, they've got costumes and they've got swords. I mean, admittedly, the swords were carry mat covered in gaffer tape, but you know, to me, back then, this was like, whoa, that's so immersive. I've got to do this.
Fun fact, Labyrinth is actually still running.
Yep.
So was that one of the first systems?
It was an offshoot of a LARP called Treasure Trap, which was the first LARP in the UK as far as I'm aware.
Right.
When Treasure Trap closed, some of the players went off and formed different system.
One important question before you start LARPing is, why do you want to do it? And it's a tricky one. I started asking myself this question for a lot of things from university. So I studied photography, and one day one of our lecturers, who was a reasonably famous photographer, kind of late 70s and 80s, asked the entire class, why do you want to be a photographer? And there were some very good answers, and some people really came up with good things. Mine was something about showing images that invoke a feeling in somebody, and just complete bullcrap.
That's a pretty high
Achy
concept.
break your heart.
Yeah, and it went around the entire room, and it got to him, and he was probably, I don't know, probably in his late 50s, 60s at this point, and quite well-spoken man, well-respected in the industry. And he said the reason he wanted to become a photographer was so he could fuck a lot of models. And that was why he became a professional. Sorry, shag a lot of models.
Yeah, I was saying, like, keep it a bit PC. There might be kids.
Yeah, and that was his drive for being a photographer for a long time. So if you can understand why you want to do it,
Yeah.
what is the first thing, and it will change. But your first impulse when you see LARP, if you've never done it before, and you think, why do I want to do this?
Yeah.
So what was yours?
My one was that I found out my local role-playing club through university, as Neil said, because I was doing my first Dungeons & Dragons campaign. I'd never done anything nerdy like that before, and I thought I'm just gonna throw myself into it. Said, "Oh, do you fancy maybe dressing up like a vampire for a couple of hours next Saturday? We can help you create a character and everything." And I said, "That sounds brilliant," because I love to dress up and I love to make pretend. I've loved costume parties and fancy dress ever since I was little. You couldn't get me out of my pink Power Ranger costume when I was 5.
Nice.
It just, I lived in it. And there's always something special for me to
Please
put
say
on
you
a
still got
costume.
it. Please say you still have
My
it.
mum still has it, yes.
Excellent. I'm going to do everything within my power to find a picture of that pink Power Ranger.
And it was just so fun because I was with a bunch of people who didn't think it was weird that I wanted to dress up, and I put so much more effort into my costume than I think anybody else in that room did. And
Nice.
I think that's when I realized this is for me. This is definitely for me.
For me, again, coming from pen and paper, having sort of like just discovered this, having not known it existed before, and was like, "Oh, that guy's actually wearing armor. They actually hit each other, and they don't end up hurting each other. I've got to try this." I thought it looked cool, which apparently is the opposite, because most normal people look at LARP and go, "Whoa, that looks so nerdy." But I just had the opposite reaction. It's like, I was like, "Yes, give me the armor, give me the weapons, and I want to be part of this. I want to feel like I'm actually in my own sort of like Conan film." Despite the fact that I was skinny and weedy at the time and nothing like Conan.
For me, it was the opposite way around. So I did medieval reenactment, and I've been doing it for probably 3 or 4 years by this point. And some of the group, they just went to one LARP once a year, and invited me along to that. And I really wasn't sure what to make of it at first. So I'd done some pen and paper, and I'd done a bit of role play. So I was probably about 22, 23, and for me it was I wasn't quite. So why I did it, I was probably just because I was asked nicely. I didn't really put too much thought into it. I just wore my medieval kit, and I went along as like a kind of nothing character. And then I didn't do LARP for probably 7 years after that. I just completely stopped. I didn't get into it again, and then got back into it, and I kind of understood it a bit better.
Yeah.
But the next question is, what do you need to put into it compared to what you get out of it?
Yeah. I'd say that for me, LARP can be a very time-consuming hobby, because when you gotta think that some games are, just their day games. Some games can last a weekend. Some games like Empire can last up to 4 to 5 days if they're running over a bank holiday. But on top of that, if you really, really want to get into it, you've got to create costume, you've got to create backgrounds, you've got to write, you've got to maybe paint, draw, anything like that. Anything that makes your character more, you require to put the effort in. You get more out the more you put in.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's not to say that you can't just turn up and be third spearman from the left, and it's like
some people have loads of fun doing that.
Yep.
But it's like you will get, the more you throw yourself into it, the better outcomes you're likely to get.
So, as with any hobby, you have your own culture, and you have your own people, and you have your own jargon. Every hobby has its own jargon that seems completely impenetrable to anybody who doesn't know what's going on. Some things you may have come across in reenactment or in tabletops. We're just going to go through a few items to get you more acquainted what we're talking about, because we use these abbreviations quite a lot in our videos.
And some people will use the language, and you'll just be like,
It's like, somebody can say something, and it's like you go, well, it sounded like English, but not any kind of English I understood.
You said some random letters there.
Yeah. Okay. So the first one we mentioned before is LARP, L-A-R-P, and LERP, L-R-P. They're basically the same thing. They're interchangeable. Some people will say there's a difference, but there really isn't. They're just different abbreviations for the exact same thing. Next thing is IC and OC. IC is in character, and OC or OOC is out of character, when you're playing your role and when you become you again. There's IC areas, IC kit, OC areas, OC kit, and that's a very big dichotomy.
You'll notice this straight away for camping. When you come to an event, some will have IC camping and OC camping. So I camp in character.
Yeah.
So I've got a medieval tent, so I can camp on the field and get up and I'm straight into character. Some people, they have a separate camp for, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah. There is monster and crew. Monsters and crew are the other side of the fence. They're who you're fighting against and the people who are running the game for you. Some LARPs will ask you to be a monster as part of the rules of you get to play. So you play one fight, you monster one fight. Or if you crew, you'll get a discount or some beer tokens or something, a little reward. But they're the people who actually run the LARPs as opposed to playing it. And then that brings us to PvP and PvM. Player versus player and player versus monster. Player versus player is that you'll fight each other. The players will be fighting each other. They could be your enemy or your best friend. PvM is the same, except you're fighting the monster crew. And you're fighting the people who are running the game. And you have spods coming in and out. And they'll be your main. Some LARPs do both. Some LARPs do just the one.
So for Empire, for example, it's very much player versus monster.
Yeah.
There are some PvP encounters, but never really to the death or anything like that.
Yeah, and PvP, it doesn't necessarily mean just fighting. So if I spread a bunch of rumours about another player, and it's like I get them ostracised from their church because I've spread a rumour that they're a heretic. I'm actually still doing PvP.
Yeah.
It's just I'm not hitting them with a lump of rubber. They call it political PvP, but the effect is still the same. You're doing something against the interests of another player,
and that's what Empire tries to promote.
Yeah. Another term that you'll come across is FOIP, or FOIP.
Okay, I don't know this one.
Oh, don't you?
No.
Okay, FOIP is find out in play.
Oh, okay.
So when you're trying to make the separation from IC and OC, especially if you're not on the field yet, or you've just left, or you're not at a game at all, and somebody says something to you, is like, oh, so what are you planning for your character? And you go like, find out in play. I can't tell you because my character wouldn't tell you and you wouldn't know. If you want to know, find out in play. If every time somebody goes to you and it's like, oh, blah, 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 and you go, FOIP, and give them a bit of a nod, and they'll hate you. They'll hate you, but you'll be playing the game properly. Next one is FizzRep, Lammies, and Props. FizzReps is physical representation. That is something that represents something else. So a basic normal one is a FizzRep for a weapon. This is a real weapon. It's got a metal head, it's got a wooden shaft, and it's unsafe. This is a FizzRep for a weapon. It is soft, it is squishy, it is safe-ish. And that goes for all sorts of things. You can have FizzReps for drinking vessels.
Yep.
You can have FizzReps for potions, for crystals, for magic, for lightning bolts. Anything that needs to be safe, or anything that you can't have a real world version of, you need to have a FizzRep for. And usually a Lammy, which is a little card or ribbon or sticker or rubber band that says this is what it is, and that is approved by the game.
Yeah, so I can't say I'm actually wearing a suit of plate. I actually have to have a FizzRep for it.
Yes. So you, one of the ways we played in when we were playing the Vampire the Masquerade game is that you can't go in and wearing a tracksuit with a label, a Lammy on it that says Armani suit. That's not fair. You have to go in a nice suit. That's a FizzRep for a nice suit, and then you can have your Lammy on it that says Armani. But if you're wearing a tracksuit, that's a FizzRep for a tracksuit.
Yep.
And then there's props. Props don't have to be safe unless you're hitting people with them. Props are anything that's not a FizzRep, like tables, chairs, and that comes into set dressing. Pillows and throws and lights. Anything that makes the world around you look real is set dressing.
And that can include taking something modern and making it look fantasy. So I use a modern camp bed, and if I'm sleeping, I see in character. But to disguise the fact that it's actually a modern folding camp bed, I'll put like a throw over the top of it. So it's a bed, but it doesn't look like I've put something modern in something that's supposed to be a fantasy setting. You get that a lot with people will bring camping chairs and they'll put a throw over them, because it's like real medieval camping chairs are really expensive and hard to come by.
Yeah. And then you've got kit. Kit is your name for generally anything you bring with you to LARP. That can include your costume, your weapons, your set dressing, your props. That is your kit. Soft kit is usually clothes, makeup, wigs, anything, little bits and pieces for your character. Hard kit is your armor, it's your weapons, it's your chairs and your tables. And then there's tat, which are like little earrings, little bits of pieces you hang off you, and that's just called tat. I'm not going to get into all the different calls, because systems have different calls and different hand signals for different things. But two of the main ones you might not know are man down and time freeze. Man down means that somebody is actually being injured, or somebody thinks that they've been injured. Usually everybody will drop to the floor and kneel and wait for that to pass. And when that happens, you usually hear something called time freeze, which means the game stopped.
Yep.
You're not role playing. You can drop OC, maybe take some water and have a bit of a chat, and then time in, which is everything goes back to normal.
This happens in one of the headcam videos.
Yeah.
So the one where I was crewing, towards the start of it, you hear a call for man down. Everyone just kind of stops what they're doing. They untangle a couple of bodies from each other to make sure they're not going to get trampled, and then go back into the game.
Okay. And when we're talking about set dressing and your phys reps and IC and OC, this is all to preserve something called immersion. And immersion is sometimes a bit of a dirty word, because people say like, oh, you're breaking my immersion, which basically means that you're separating the line between IC and OC. It's too harsh. Say somebody's talking about this movie that they saw last week while they're supposed to be in the 15th century, and movies don't exist. You're breaking immersion when you leave a packet of crisps on the field, or you're eating something like that while somebody's trying to have a great grand speech about the heroes of the empire. That's breaking immersion. And you can let little things go, like if somebody needs to have chocolate because they're diabetic, or if somebody needs to have Coke because they can't drink from anything else.
The classic one is beer cans as well.
Yeah, beer cans gets everybody's goat.
Yeah.
And it's really easy, guys. Go to the charity shop, buy a tankard, job done, sorted. You
can even create covers for soda cans. I made a soda can cover for one of my friends who drinks Pepsi all the time because he doesn't drink anything else. So now he's got a little leather holster. You just pop his can in there and it looks just like he's drinking from a normal cup. And it's that easy. But it also means things like tags on clothing, shoes, trainers, stuff like that. Modern stuff.
Yeah, try and, even if you're just wearing basic kit, just try to avoid having logos, printed shirts. It's one of the biggest cliches about really bad kit for LARPers is that guy's wearing an Iron Maiden t-shirt.
An inside-out metal shirt and a blue jean. So froth is a word when you talk about something that you love and it's just bubbling up inside you. So when you finish an event and all you want to do is talk about how much fun you had and all the stuff you did, and you want to get other people excited about it, and you start foaming at the mouth because it's all just coming out of you like so much molten lava, that's froth.
Yes, but it sounds like it's really good, but it can also be the opposite.
Yeah, sometimes it's complaining.
If you get all of your LARP friends and you introduce them to non-LARP friends, they're very separate. And LARP friends will often froth quite a lot, especially when they're around people who are non-LARP friends. So if you're new to LARP and you don't know anyone who does it, I will guarantee that you will make some friends. And these are friends who will stick with you because you will have experienced crazy stuff that you can't do in the real world and you can't do outside of LARP games.
Yeah.
Saved your life, killed people, jumped in, sacrificed themselves, did various things as their character, but ultimately it was them playing that character, and you'll have a connection with that person which you don't have with someone who doesn't do LARP.
Yeah.
And it's a very different kind of friendship. But if you introduce those people to your non-LARP friends, Oh man, is it awkward?
Your
It's seriously.
non-LARP friends will start to get that glazed over expression,
Yeah.
and you know, I mean, to give you an example, it's like for me, it'll be the same as when somebody starts talking about football. I'm
Yes.
like,
But what you could always do is say to your non-LARP friends, look, watch this fantastic video explaining LARP, and then you will understand a little bit about what these people are talking about. You
Yeah,
might understand the stories a bit.
And if you don't like it, then we'll never talk to you about it ever again.
Yeah, never. No.
yeah, I've almost never mentioned LARP at all. No, never.
I think I started calling it a freeform theater, so I can put it on my CV.
That is good. I should totally put LARP on my CV. How can I do this?
Well,
You call it outdoor organisation
Outdoor
events,
organisation.
team building,
organisation, team building,
orienteering.
team skills, looking.
More about how to work LARP into real life in another video.
Yes, let's promote synergy.
Brilliant.
Pulling blows is something you might hear that I don't think I've ever heard anywhere else other than LARP.
Nope.
Pulling blow is basically the difference between hitting somebody full force as hard as you can wallop them and tapping them. So if I was going to do a full force wall, I'd be like BAM! And like, sorry Neil, I've been hitting you a couple of times. But a pulling blow is that you pretend to go in full force, but right before you hit, you bounce off. You bounce off. So you let your grip go, and you make sure that it hits them lightly. So it looks like you're giving a big wallop, and if you could react to a pulled blow the same way as you could to a normal one, that's good roleplay.
No, that's just a low tolerance for pain.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't humour him.
Soft and hard skills. I'm not too clear on this one, so if you want to
Okay,
take
right.
it.
Soft skills. It's anything that you don't have to represent. So say for example, we'll go for a difference. It's like you can soft skill lock picking. So you can go, I've got the lock picking skill. So I go up to this lock and it's like I mime, I role play picking it. I count to 30 and I go lock picking 1. I've picked a level 1 lock.
Yeah.
So that's a soft skill because it's like at that point then if you've got the skill to open the lock, then the GM will the games master, the referee, will say, okay, that's open. Whereas hard skills would be me getting a set of lock picks, fiddling around inside the lock until I pop the lock.
Yep.
And that can be the same thing. It's like combat can be seen as a hard skill, but there are certain calls in combat that are soft skills. You know, like the ability to say, I knock you down with this blow, or knock down.
Yeah.
That's seen as a soft skill. So it's like there are things that the game lets you do, which are soft skills, and there are things that you can do, which are hard skills.
Some people think that it can be a little bit unfair for reenactors or trained fighters to take part in LARP because they have the hard skill of being able to fight. And unfortunately, there's nothing you can do about that unless they play terribly on purpose or you get better. That's just how it is.
Yep.
A lot of systems will have skills that will limit what you're allowed to do in terms of hard skills, so you can't actually knock somebody down because unless you have the knockdown skill.
That varies on games.
Yeah.
Which moves us on beautifully to types of games.
Types of games! Yes.
How well organised we are.
It's almost like we had a script.
I got some rough notes. So, types of games. Do you want to start, Neil?
Okay, so it's like if we look at stuff, it's like at its most basic level, very low LARPing, and you've got your parlor LARPs, as they're sometimes called, which is like your murder mystery dinner parties. These your Mind's Eye theatre, Vampire the Masquerade, where you're in a room and it's for a very it's a short duration. It's maybe an evening, and then you've got sort of like club level LARPs where it's normally, again, sorry to use jargon, but it's called like a linear, which is like you go from you go from this place to this place to this place, and you do this and this and this in a set order.
Some
Same
people don't
way
like
that-
linears.
yeah.
I like linears.
So it's the same way that encounters work in Dungeons and Dragons. The DM sets up something for you to knock down, and some people really enjoy that.
I think they're fun.
Yeah, so and then you've got like LARPs of different sizes, and I think the LARP awards that Ian from Having a LARP runs. Hi Ian.
So the way they stage it is under 30 players, 30 to 100 players, and then over 100 players.
Yeah. So Fest LARPs all count in the over 100 players
Yep.
section of that. A lot of LARPs are fantasy. Dungeons and Dragons,
Yep.
Kings and Queens, you got your vague pseudo-medieval style all the way up to your late Renaissance. And then you've got modern, you've got sci-fi, you've got aliens,
There's
things
so
like that.
much now.
There's
a
so
lot
many
of,
different. There's so many different ones.
There's a lot of kind of Mad Max-esque.
Oh,
Post-apocalyptic is a
It's coming
huge
in massively.
area now, and there's a lot of competing LARPs for post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, if there's a genre, there's probably a LARP for it.
Yeah, pretty much. But then there's the other side of that, which is the historically accurate LARPs, which are different to reenactments.
Yes.
Things
What's the terminology for their costume? Stitch count in?
No, I think the slightly better one is I think they use Cool-Thentic.
Yeah, cool, authentic, and that's also film sim, where what your LARP looks like and what the characters look like is sometimes almost as or more important than the actual roleplay gets involved, because you drink it in through your eyes and it's very aesthetically pleasing, and these can end up being quite expensive. On the cheaper side, you've got Buccaneers of the Damned, which is a film sim, but that's quite cheap, and their kit standards aren't incredibly high, even though some of the makers are. And then on the other end, you've got things like Dumb Nunny and When the Wall Breaks, which will be going from 150 to 250 pounds per ticket, but that is catered, where you'll expected to have historically accurate costumes, historically accurate LARP weaponry, being in immersion the entire time, and basically just it's so deep.
Yes.
It's incredibly deep, and it's incredibly high quality.
So what we were talking about at the start, where I asked why do you want to do it, you've then got to use that, which we'll talk about in another video, to kind of understand what LARP is right for you. So you could go along to a LARP where I could say this is amazing, I love it, but if me and you want to LARP for completely different reasons, you're probably not going to enjoy it like I do.
No.
And it's, if you can understand why you want to do something and then get the information to see, can I then do this at this game, then that's probably going to be the right game for you. And we'll talk about that probably in another video, because otherwise this is going to stretch on forever. And the other type we've got, which is quite a big one for new players, is Fools and Heroes.
Yeah, it's consistently been voted one of the best grassroots systems in the country. It's been going for ages. So started by a guy that I had privilege of knowing, a guy called John Naylor, and it was. I don't think this one was an offshoot from Treasure Trap. Regular F&H players will be able to put me right on this, so just put something in the comment. They basically have branches all across the country, so each branch represents a different area of the game world, but it's consistent within the game world. So if I was an adventurer in the Southampton branch, I could go to the Cambridge branch and still play my character. They run normally 2 back-to-back linears. So again, this is where you would provide the monsters and the NPCs, non-player characters,
Oh, we missed that one.
as for one game, and then you would play your characters in the other. So it's a kind of a quid pro quo thing.
But because they do it that way, and it's only one day, it's very cheap.
It's very cheap, very easy to pick up, and as Neil said, if you move around a lot, or if you are scared of not liking one in an area,
I think you can try it for free once.
You can try it
or
for free
twice.
once, and you can move around.
I've done a few. It's
And-
okay.
Yeah.
We'll probably put a link to the Fools and Heroes website in the description.
But most a lot of universities do have LARP societies, or at least an RPG society that is probably got LARPers in it. That's how I got in. So.
But we mentioned it before, the LARP awards. You can see, I think it's like 5 or 6 nominated for each category.
Yeah.
And then you can just Google those ones and have a look. So if you just have a look online at LARP awards, we can put a link as well.
Yeah.
And then that'll give you a rough idea of the different sizes and the different categories they put. It's a great place to start. Because there's so many games now.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to get into LARP, if you go to the LARP Awards, which runs off the back of LARPCon, LARPCon's a great place because you get a lot of LARPs will actually turn up and they'll have like information booths there, and they'll be able to basically give you a hell of a lot more information than we can. And in this video, plus there's also a huge LARPers market. So if you get bitten by the bug, there's everything you could possibly want there. Not that Ian's going to give us some free tickets for plugging his convention, but please.
Right, should we finish with why it's worth the effort? So you might be sitting there thinking, geez, this is loads of rules, loads of jargon, loads of different games, loads of stuff to
It can
remember.
be pretty overwhelming.
Lots of time that I've got to put into it, lots of money because I've got to get a costume, I've got to travel to where it is.
Yeah.
Yet, why do we still do it?
Well, for me, as I said, I love costumes and I love dressing up. And I also have a lot of other hobbies that aren't LARP. I draw, I sing, I write music, I create costumes, I like to fight, I like to stay fit, and I love orcs. And I'm fortunate that LARP is the only hobby that I've been able to find that allows me to do everything. I can do anything at a LARP. I can be a bard, I can be a poet, I can be a fighter, I can be anything, and I can use all of my skills, and they're all actually useful to me, and it allows me to get all of my creativity out in one hobby instead of spending all my time spread out over everything else. That's why I love it.
For me, it's like you put the effort into the costume. You go to the event. You role play. You have some fun. But for me, I get quite a lot after the event because particularly now with the advent of digital photography, it makes me sound so old because when I was a lad, all the photos had to be developed.
I was a lad.
I was a lad.
Oh,
but now it's like an almost instant gratification. Within a couple of weeks, there are some amazing photographers at LARP, aren't there, Adam?
Yes.
Yes.
And
We don't know any.
and to see the pictures. I mean, particularly at Empire, because I don't go on the battlefield at Empire. It's really good to see the pictures of the battle and to actually get a feel for what's happening. And it's like other LARPs where you've been working when you've been working as part of a team. It's like the feeling you get. It's like when you're walking away and you've actually won that battle and you're like, I actually got out of this alive, and I thought my character was going to die. And if you're in the moment, you're like, it tricks your brain into thinking, hey, if I don't block this, I'm going to die. And it's like that's when I find LARP at its most immersive in those crisis situations.
My job can be stressful for me.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just a completely different world. So it's just complete.
Yeah.
No.
I think that a lot of people that do LARP have stressful jobs, and they think of it as like holiday.
Yes, and most of them play stupid characters.
Yeah.
Most people, you can often tell
If somebody's a doctor,
if someone's
or
a doctor
or a politician,
or
or a businessman.
exactly, they will often play like a stupid orc. Not like you play stupid orc, but I've got a friend.
I'm just gonna say
I've got a friend who plays. He plays like an orc healer, and he plays it brilliantly.
Who's your friend?
It's a different system, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
He does like only the small ones. So he does the system I started with. and his job is, he was telling me about it, and I was just like, jeez. And normally he always used to crew, and then he just plays this really stupid, and he just plays it beautifully.
Yeah.
And it just makes me happy. And the other reason is, when else would I get to shout for glory and hold a sword up high and hope that other people follow me as I charge towards a line of orcs?
I think that most of our nation would follow you anywhere, Eris Clarence, mostly just to see what was going to happen.
Will I get splattered, or will I survive?
I think that when you're saying like you immersion in the battle and having people follow your charge and creating, is that it affects other people.
Yes.
It's role play with other people. And I think there's defining moments where you've created something, an experience, a battle, or a piece of art that's made somebody else's experience of that game so much better. I wrote a poem for 2 orcs who were getting married, and I presented it to them as their wedding gift. And now that is part of the nation's history, and it is in our official book, and I made 5 people cry. And it just felt so amazing to have that kind of effect.
Yes.
I make people cry, but for very different reasons.
Yeah, fair enough. Yes, so we mentioned at the start, for my reason for getting into LARP wasn't very good, but now it's changed since I've come back. And mine is very simple, which is I just want to have fun.
Yes, if you're not having fun at a LARP,
Yes.
maybe
And then it's
right.
changed from then again to I want to make other people have fun as well. So that my reason for playing LARP is that simple. I want to have fun, and I want to make other people have fun.
Yeah.
So with one of my characters, I wasn't having fun, and I was a general on Clarence, and it was just sitting through meetings, and it was boring. So I just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And then it became fun again.
Yes.
Anyway, we're going well off topic. Sorry,
Yeah.
we all we had was like a little topic thing to try and stick to, and I completely failed. I'm really sorry.
So, we've been waffling on a bit too long now. So, from all of us here at ULARP, from the new to LARP video, I'd like to say goodbye, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
If you've got any ideas for videos that you'd like to see, or anything you want more of, let us know. We'll try and do some more looking at weapons and bits and bobs.
Yep.
And so a couple of people have asked for training videos as well, so just the absolute basics of how to fight safely.
Yeah, we've already shown you how to pull your blows, and that's like the most important bit.
Yeah, I'm probably the wrong person to ask about fighting safely.
I am also the wrong person to talk to about fighting safely.
So Hannah, well done. You're going to be doing a video about how to fight safely.
Oh.
Well volunteered.
And we'll do some more videos about how to get into the LARP and what you need to bring to
so the
for
next
your first
one
LARP.
is so this has been just talking about what is LARP, but the next one's going to be on how to actually get involved, how to make that first step, and what you need to take, and the ways to make that first step as well.
Okay, so for everybody here at ULARP and new to LARP, goodbye.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.